Hi, I'm Libra. Welcome to your August 2019 Astrology 33 bonus love reading. Thank you to those of you who have liked, viewed, shared, subscribed, donated to the channel. I appreciate all of that. And for those of you who want to book a personal reading with me, follow me on Instagram or donate to the channel. Just check out the description of the video for all the information on that. With that out of the way, for those of you used to my normal monthly readings, you might notice that there's a different spread on the table and different tarot cards. So I'll just cover that real quick before we get into it. On the left side, we have the Lover's Path Tarot. On the right side, we have the Tarot of Sexual Magic. And this is a spread that I call the Bridging the Gap spread. The way it works is the 3 cards on this side would represent your energy towards the connection with your main love interest. This would represent their energy towards the connection. And then these are the past energies, present energies, future energies. And then once we're done with the main spread, we'll actually pull some oracle cards to help tie everything together. That's where the bridging the gap dynamic comes into play. All right, so starting with the past energy on your side, we have Innocence, which is the equivalent of the Fool card. Now, this usually represents taking a leap of faith, obviously, also a new start. So, you might have recently gotten out of something and maybe just decided to start something new. And, with the artwork here as well, to me, I look at that as a mixture of almost like a water and fire energy as well. So, can just be saying that, it's taking you out of your element in a way too, because obviously you're an air sign. So, for you to be experiencing those energies, might have taken you out of your comfort zone a bit, but it's like you're still taking that chance anyway. And overall, to me, that represents pure intentions too. So, I feel like you really went into this with an open mind, an open heart, not really carrying a lot of baggage with you, just being open minded and jumping in towards something. Past energy on their side is the Two of Chalices, which is the equivalent of the Two of Cups. So, it could play out one of two ways. Either this is saying that you made an offer to them and they might have accepted it, or your leap of faith was them making an offer to you and you decided to take a chance with this person. But yeah, Two of Cups energy, some people like to see it as a soulmate energy and everything. I don't necessarily view it that way. I mean, it's the first of the cup cards, really, other than the ace, obviously. So to me, it's more of like a new start in a relationship. So maybe it's someone that you've known for a while, but at least it would be the start of a romantic connection between the two of you. That's how I primarily see it. So it looks like in the past you definitely started something new with someone. In the present energy, we have the Queen of Arrows on your side. So that's actually the equivalent of the Queen of Swords, which is actually the court card for Libra. So this could just be saying that you're really feeling in your element right now, So like I said, even though in the past it might have felt like a risk for you to take that leap of faith, you might have realized it paid off for you, and maybe now even more so than before you might feel like yourself, because the Queen of Arrows is a very elevated card. I mean, the only way you could get higher for your sign would be the Justice card, maybe the Empress, since that's also a Venus connection, but obviously this looks like you're definitely in your element, feeling comfortable. I mean, if you just look at her body language there, she looks very relaxed, very content, and at peace. So, whereas sometimes the Queen of Arrows energy in the Rider-Waite deck can be perceived as a little bit more cold and cutting. Here, with the Venus name in it and everything, it just gives you that much more Venusian quality and just feeling open and abundant. The present energy on their side is the King of Chalices. So that's a second water card. So this could definitely be a water sign that you've been dealing with. And maybe that's, again, the whole part about feeling out of your element, right? Maybe, because, water and air can be a bit of a tricky match sometimes. So, maybe, though, this is just saying that they're giving you that comfort. Scorpio, this is technically the card for Scorpio, and Scorpio represents your second house, so this could be someone that you work with, possibly, and maybe that's where you might have felt like it was a leap of faith, because maybe you were a bit wary about having a workplace romance. Could just be someone that gives you that sense of comfort and security, too, though, since it is the second house, and the second house can be about that. They could raise your self-esteem, make you feel good about yourself, things along those lines. But they could also be a bit closed off emotionally as well. So, and that's technically a quality that, like we were saying, especially with the Rider Waite, the Queen of Arrows, energy can be perceived as having too. So another way this could play out potentially could be saying that, maybe things were a lot more passionate between the two of you. Maybe now, the emotions are cut off a little bit. But, I don't necessarily see it too bad, but we'll see. The future energy on your side, if I can grab it, is the Five of Arrows. So definitely watch out for this energy. Obviously, this is the equivalent of the Five of Swords. And, the way I usually see this card, especially when the Three of Swords is involved, and you guys do have the Three of Arrows at the bottom of the deck. So technically a Libra card. So for some of you, this could just be pointing to that. For those of you, if your Libra placement's in the middle of the sign, but really more so here you can see clearly the woman has her back turned on the heart with the three arrows in it, right? And the stormy waters behind her and everything, not really wanting to look at it. So what I say when I see the Three of Swords and Five of Swords together, and likewise Three of Arrows, Five of Arrows, is to say that if there's something that you haven't healed from in the past, be very careful about that, because it can come back up and bite you in the ass, essentially. Because, I mean, even if we look at the artwork here, she's holding those three arrows in her hand, right? So, what I usually say with the Five of Arrows, it's when someone thinks that they've healed from something, and, they convince themselves that they've healed from something, but deep down they haven't really dealt with it. So what ends up happening is they're carrying those three swords, or in this case, those three arrows around, and then, you know, because they're not looking at that and they haven't done the healing, they could actually end up doing damage to others in the process because they're still carrying that around. So definitely be mindful of that. And especially when I look at this, this card as well with the artwork, the angel here usually represents Cupid in this deck. So what this represents to me is, they could even be trying to send you messages, maybe in your dreams, because to me it looks like almost like she woke up from sleep. So, you could be getting messages in your dreams that, hey, you really need to work on this, you really need to heal this, right? But maybe you've been putting it off. And maybe Venus traveling through your 12th house is going to bring this up again for review, because it's going to be in the sign of Virgo for, well, I mean, towards the end of August and then a pretty good chunk of September as well. So, maybe when Venus gets into your 12th, something that you haven't dealt with in the past comes back up, and it might manifest itself in a negative way, because it almost looks like they're even pulling away from you. Like, okay, we've tried to give you these messages so many times that you need to work on this and heal from this, and then they could just essentially abandon you, basically. Like, all right, you're on your own. So, definitely something to watch out for there. The future energy on their side is the Temperance card. So this is a card of major arcana card for Sagittarius. So, if it's a Scorpio you're dealing with, they could have Sagittarius placements as well, like a Scorpio sun, but maybe their Venus and Mercury are in Sag, or vice versa. But this also is an energy of balance. So be careful, because on the one hand, this could just be saying that they could help you restore that balance and help you heal from what you have to do if you approach it in a healthy way with them. But this is also saying to me with balance, which is to say, if you come at them with that Five of Arrows energy, it's going to blow up in your face, because they'll give it right back to you, right? If you think about balance in that regard, it's like, all right, you're going to get what you give. So that's definitely, to me, it could play out either way. It's really going to have to depend more on you, I feel, as far as, just being careful about how you approach that. Because the bottom of the deck on their side is actually the Five of Swords. So, and I have to say, with their energy, given that you have both the Three of Arrows and the Five of Arrows on their side, I'm more inclined to believe that it would be you who'd bring the Five of Arrows energy into the equation. But so what I see with this being at the bottom of the deck for them is to say that, it could really stick with them if you subject them to that energy, and obviously that would ruin the connection, basically. So something to keep in mind there. So like I said, whereas if you do present it to present it to them in a healthy manner, and maybe just open up to them what you're going through, then, maybe they could actually help you move past that, if that makes any sense. Especially because Sagittarius is your third house of communication as well. So that could just be saying, hey, if you come to them in an open way about, hey, this is what I'm going through in communication, and all right, then they might work with you on that. But if you come towards them with toxic communication, they'll throw it right back at you. Especially if they are a Sagittarius and Scorpio combination too, right? They could be pretty cutting with their words if they need to be. So something to keep in mind there. But we'll see if the Oracle cards add any additional messages to the situation. So first, I'm going to try to pull some cards from the Mystic Moon Oracle deck I have here. What I do is I shuffle this deck before we start recording, but then I actually like to get through the main spread before we pull any cards from here, and then just see if they could give us any additional insight. So first I'll look to see if there's any unspoken messages from you toward them, and then we'll do the same for them toward you. And what I do is, I'll shuffle for a bit. If I get a jumper, I'll take it. If nothing comes up, I won't force it. I won't pull one from the top or from the middle of the deck or anything. I'll just say, all right, there was no need to grab any additional messages from this deck. And for those of you who have asked before, by the way, for the actual paid readings, I do actually get cards from here. I do take a little bit longer if I need to, but these are just generals, so I don't really stress it that much. It's like if something comes, it comes. If not, take that as a sign and keep moving. So we don't have an 80-hour-long video too. But yeah, let's see if we get any unspoken messages from you toward them. Oh, got 2. Okay, and then I'll see if we have any from them toward you. Oh, got 1. Okay, so from them to you, or rather from you to them, I should say, we had 2 cards that came up. We have I can't seem to find the right words to say to you, and we will be together again. Interesting. So, maybe this is going to be a breakup for you, and maybe this is basically pointing to you after that 5 of Swords moment. Maybe it's because you feel like you can't communicate to this person for some reason. And like I said, it could be that, the sword and water energy, that can be a bit of a tricky mix, air and water. So maybe you guys, of course, there could have been passion in the beginning, especially if this was someone you met during the retrograde, right, and the eclipse season. And yeah, you definitely could have got caught up in something. And maybe once that passed, maybe you started to see some more incompatibilities between the two of you. And, maybe you just feel like you can't really communicate to this person. But the we will be together again part is interesting. So yeah, maybe it's actually you realizing that you do have to heal from something, and maybe you, although maybe not in the healthiest way, or maybe if you do it in a healthy way where you let them know, hey, I really have to deal with this, right? Maybe you let them know in an attempt to not ruin the connection, right? Maybe that's what ends up happening. And then maybe down the line you guys can meet again. So maybe that's what that's pointing to. But, it doesn't have to necessarily mean both these cards are tied together. Maybe this is a message for some of you, and then this would represent another group of you. Message on their side is interesting, though. We have, I'm not the same person that you remember. So that's an interesting one, because I didn't necessarily get the vibe that this was someone who came back from your past, but maybe it is. Maybe it is someone who came back from your past, actually, and then maybe this is actually, maybe you guys reconnected during the retrograde eclipse season, and maybe it's wounds coming back up from them in the past, and maybe you're worried that it'll happen again, right? Maybe you start to see a similar pattern play out, and it might freak you out, and then they might be trying to say to you, hey, I know that's how things were in the past, but maybe they're trying to say I've grown from that, right? So maybe that's what's going on there. We'll see if we get any more insight on this with the Wisdom of the Oracle deck. So this is actually one of the decks I use in the main readings every month. So for those of you who watch those, you're probably used to this deck. Well, yeah, we'll just pull in here for some additional insight, and then we'll wrap up. Okay. We have Loyal Heart. So, I mean, on the surface, that sounds pretty promising, right? There's the artwork for it, and the number is 35. If that has any significance for you, let's see what the messages say for that. Okay, it says fidelity, loyalty, devotion. The oracle's message: evidence of loyalty will appear in your life. Others will prove they are faithful to you, and you will in turn commit fully to them. There is a sure and abiding certainty in your heart. Know that Spirit is always loyal to you. No matter the outer circumstances in your life, trust and have faith, for you are eternally loved, always divinely protected, and divinely directed. So maybe that goes along with what we were saying there with that message with the person saying, I'm not the same person you remember, as far as maybe if you're worrying, again, that Five of Swords energy could also be, oh, let me hurt them before they hurt me because you're still carrying that unresolved wound. That could be just saying that, hey, if you're worried about that happening again, it won't. Whether this is truly a new person or, just reminds you of a situation from your past. The relationship message says your partnerships, friendships, and romantic relationships all have many qualities in common right now. Honest devotion, faithfulness, and a loyal heart are being shown to you. Are you as loyal in return? Now is the time for heartfelt commitments and trusting in divine protection. So interesting there, because like I said, with that Three of Swords and Five of Arrows, maybe it's you that might be causing the issue essentially because of something you haven't worked with, and it could be saying, hey, if these people are presenting themselves to you in an open, honest way, are you doing the same toward them? So like I said, this could be an inner work thing. I don't necessarily see it as doom and gloom. I do see it as something you have to be careful with, though, because, like I said, the way I'm seeing this energy really is saying, hey, if you present it to them in a healthy way and say, this is what I'm going through, I need to work on this, then they might totally be patient and understanding with you. Whereas if you come at them in a toxic way, like we said, Scorpio and Sag energies, they would have no problem throwing it right back at you. So, something to be mindful of. All right, guys, we'll wrap up there, and I'll see you all next month. Bye.